Here's what's coming for our agenda. We're going to talk about poor sleep and your health. What's the connection? Most people, when they think about their health, they think about exercise and nutrition, but very rarely do we talk about sleep. So it's super important that we cover this. We're also going to talk about sleep in our culture, in our modern culture. You know, are we doing it well on average? Are we missing the mark? And how has sleep changed, specifically in the past 100 years? How are our ancestors sleeping? How did they sleep compared to how we sleep? And what's the impact of the difference? And then we're going to get into some practical things and talk about 5 sleep tips that you can use to sleep better tonight, or if not tonight, at least tomorrow, once you can put these things into action. And at the end, we'll have a live Q&A. I've got some questions here that Rachel got for us in the Facebook group that I'll be talking about. But at any point you have a question, just go ahead and put in the Q&A chat, and periodically throughout the presentation, I'll get to those questions. And at the end, we have a very special exclusive webinar offer on our collagen PM. This is our sleep formula. It's wonderful. We've got 2 flavors that we're offering today, and it's only available for those who are watching this webinar either live or on recording. And we'll also provide that for you in the Facebook group. So let's see where we're at now. We got some more chats. Everybody's looking good. Thank you, Jeffrey. Good job on 8 hours. Another Q&A. Okay. All right. So let's get started here. Let's talk about the impact of poor sleep. And again, most people do not even acknowledge or talk about sleep. When you go to your doctor and you might have any health issues going on, the last thing most people hear about from a doctor is, how's your sleep? And even if that question is asked, very rarely are you getting any practical tips or any true support to help you sleep better. But I say sleep is one of those one things, right? The one things that if you fix that one thing, it makes all other things easier or unnecessary. So fixing your sleep, just like fixing your nutrition, just like fixing your movement, your exercise, and supplementing smartly, you fix your sleep, you start to fix a whole lot of problems. So what happens when we don't get enough sleep? And one thing it does, it causes this chronic downward spiral of chronic stress. And you probably notice this. You probably notice that when you don't sleep well, you wake up and you're like, I'm anxious, I'm stressed. And it just leads to all these other poor decisions throughout your day. When you are sleep deprived, you're going to crave sugar because you haven't got enough energy naturally. So your body is, you probably noticed this. You don't sleep well, you go for the bagels, you go for the Twinkies, you start cramming down lots of coffee just to provide enough energy for you to get through the day. And of course, poor eating decisions can lead to weight gain. That can lead to all kinds of diseases if you do that chronically. And one thing that sleep does is it leads to insulin resistance. So if you've seen any of my nutrition webinars, I talk a lot about insulin resistance and how that's at the base. It's one of the roots of all the diseases, most of the diseases that we experience in our modern culture. So insulin's a hormone. It gets secreted by the pancreas, and its function is to take glucose from your blood. And when it's in the blood, and it takes it to your cells and it puts it in there for energy. When we're insulin resistant, that process gets messed up. Your cells are like, there's too much sugar in the bloodstream, and now insulin goes and stores that glucose as fat. When that happens chronically, when either you eat poorly or not moving well or not sleeping well, that leads to things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and mood disorders. So a lot of times we think of these things as all separate issues, especially in our modern culture. They give you a diagnosis, they give you a particular medication for that one problem. But a lot of times, if you fix the underlying issue, which is often sleep, how you eat, how you move, sleep, you start to fix a lot of those issues. So another thing it does is increases inflammation. So if you've been given a diagnosis with anything on itis on the end, like arthritis or myocarditis or anything like that, anytime you see itis, you know that it's inflammation. And inflammation, just like insulin resistance, is at the root of many of our common chronic diseases in our culture. So you fix the sleep problem, you begin to fix the inflammation problem, the achy joints, all those, depression, anxiety, things like that start to go away. All of it's related to inflammation. And the other thing that poor sleep does is it negatively impacts your gut health. So if you're someone who has digestive issues, going to the bathroom, or you're constipated, that can be related to sleep. And your digestion, that's your most important area for your health. The Aborigines say you've got 3 brains. You got your brain, you got your heart brain, and you got your gut brain. And the gut brain really is the most important one that kind of drives all the other ones, right? So where your digestion takes place is where you break down your food. It's where you absorb all the minerals and vitamins from the food you eat. It's also where you eliminate the toxins from the food that you eat or anything you breathe in the air. And when that's disrupted, when your gut lining is compromised, you prevent that from happening, and it can lead to a whole host of problems. So gut health, super important, and poor sleep is definitely going to give you poor gut health. So another thing it does is negatively impacts mental and emotional well-being. We have super high rates of depression, super high rates of anxiety and stress in our culture. And a lot of it I equate to a whole culture not sleeping well at all. So huge impact on poor sleep. We need to talk about it more. And again, thank you guys for coming. So let's see what we got here in the chat. More people saying hi. Virginia sleeps about 7 hours a night. Okay, wonderful. Any questions? Looks like we're good. Okay. All right, everybody, let's keep going. And the next one. So let's talk about sleep in our culture. Again, you go to the doctor very rarely are they talking about sleep and supporting you on doing this. And it's generally just not celebrated in our culture. You know, like I grew up and, you know, it's like sleep is for the weak. You know, in college, it was do all-nighters, stay up, you know, stay up, but definitely not encouraged to sleep in any way. So it's not celebrated, not supported. And we're at a place now where 1 in 3 adults simply don't get enough sleep. 1 in 3 adults, right? Now, what's interesting is that this hasn't always been the case. This is a product of living in our modern culture, in our environment, right? So Americans specifically currently average 6.8 hours of sleep per night. Now, what's super fascinating to me is that we're down on average an entire hour since World War II, since 1942. How cool would it be to have another hour of sleep every single night? That's what our parents or our grandparents did, right? They were getting a whole hour more of sleep than we are now in our modern culture. Another interesting point, we only get 7% of our time outside today in our modern culture. Most of our time is spent inside, right? Really important to know that. And it's a good indication that we're moving in our culture farther and farther and farther away from nature. It's like we're trying to separate ourselves. And I have the belief that the farther we move away from nature, the more trouble, the more chronic diseases we're going to have, right? So really important to know that we're only spending 7% of our time outside of nature, whereas our ancestors did it quite different. Let's go to the next slide here. So how did our ancestors do it? So most of them spent almost all their time during the day outside, especially 100 years ago. You know, they were farming, they were moving things, carrying things, but just generally doing a lot of labor outside, and they were spending time with the sun coming down on them. And what's interesting is that they slept typically 9 to 10 hours a night, whereas we're getting 6.8 in our modern culture. So when they woke up, that was typically when the sun came up. The light from the sun would wake them up. They would feel it in their eyes, in the windows, whatever, wherever, and that would wake them up. And when the sun goes down, they would go down. And this is really, I'm talking about 200, 300 years ago, because I think it was 1879, a man named Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, right? And just like when the smartphone came and the iPhone came and everything changed in our culture, back in 1879, everything started to change with our culture when it came to light and how we related to light and the sun, right? And all of a sudden, our nights turned into days. We stayed up longer, right? So just like our eating environment has changed, right? I talk a lot about how in the past 100 years, we've introduced white flour, white sugar, just like our movement has changed. You know, we're spending more time in front of a desk and on the couch, you know, watching Netflix. Our sleeping environment has radically changed in the past 100 years. Our relationship with light has radically changed. And again, only spending 7% of our time outside, and it has an impact. So here are 2 important hormones that everyone needs to know about that have a profound impact on your sleep. So what you see here are the charts and the rhythms of cortisol and melatonin. So every time you sleep, it's a complete hormonal experience, right? Just like when you eat. But cortisol is commonly referred to as your stress hormone or your daytime hormone. And melatonin is commonly referred to as your nighttime hormone. And what you see here is a normal graph. This is someone who, if someone has this type of cortisol rhythm and melatonin rhythm, good. They're probably sleeping super, super well. So what you see in terms of time, you wake up ideally and you have a huge spike in cortisol at the beginning of the day once the sun comes up. As time goes on throughout the day, right, cortisol tends to drop and it gets to its lowest point around 9 p.m., 10 p.m., right? And then time goes on, 3 a.m. starts to go up in preparation for your next day, right? That's how cortisol should ideally work, okay? Melatonin, you see during the day, the red one, super low, not high, right? It stays low throughout the day. And then around when the sun sets, it starts to spike up. And once you're sleeping, it has its highest point, around 12 a.m. And it starts to dip back down. And once the next day starts, once the sun comes up, it's back at its low point, right? Cortisol, melatonin, this is what it should look like as it relates to the daytime and the nighttime. Good functioning hormones right here. And then what I want you to pay attention to here, you see melatonin and cortisol in black and the blue lines. But what I really want you to pay attention to is that red line, right? The red line is showing you ideally what's happening to your core body temperature throughout the day, right? So during the day, your core body temperature is much higher, right? And then when you go to sleep, when the sun goes down in the sleep period, then it should drop. You should be your body should have a very cool temperature at a lower point while you're sleeping. We'll come back to this a little later, but I want to show you this now because it's a very important thing that's going to relate to one of our sleep tips and kind of what we talk about there. So, and here you see 3 different curves. Now, these are curves that are not working so well. So in blue for each of these things, you see what a normal curve is for cortisol, right? You wake up during the morning, it's high, sun's up, it's high, tapers off throughout the day. But where we go wrong, the common issues we see for most people are the irregular curves that you see in red, right? So on the upper left, you'll see someone who, when they wake up, cortisol production is not very high, right? And as the day goes on, maybe midday, it goes up a little higher. And then right when they're trying to go to bed, their cortisol is super high. And these are the people, if anyone's having sleep issues like this, they typically experience low energy all day. And all of a sudden they lay down, they're trying to go to bed and they're like, I'm so awake. Like, what is going on? And they can't sleep and their thoughts are going real hard and they just toss and turn all night. And then, they wake up the next day and it's super low energy because their cortisol production is now kind of crashed and it repeats over and over and over. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see someone who wakes up and they're like, we're ready to go, lots of coffee, and they stay really high all day, right? High production all day. They're just the people that talk really fast and like you can tell their thoughts are all over the place. And sometimes these people have a hard time being present because they've got so much energy and so much happening inside their body. And they lay down to go to bed, same thing. They're like, I can't sleep. Sometimes these people get 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep at best, but they're usually just wired all day. And if that person stays at that high level with high cortisol for such a long time, generally what you'll see after a while is a huge crash in their lifestyle, right? And you'll see what we see at the bottom curve where there's like flat line, like cortisol production it's not producing, it's not going up, it's not going down. These people are unfortunately just like zombies. They're just barely getting by, right? And you see the same irregular curves with melatonin, right? And these are the common issues that are in big part hormonally why only 1 in 3 Americans are getting enough sleep, right? Cortisol issues. So let's get to the 5 tips, practical tips to sleep better tonight. And I see some of you have put in questions, so thank you for that. I'll come to the questions a little bit later once we have some space. So 5 tips to sleep better tonight. Again, practical, simple things that you can do to get your body in harmony with this biology. So let's see here. So first one, really important, is align your body with the sun, right? So I mentioned our ancestors and how they were living. They woke up with the sun, right? The light from the sun would come in, they would get out in the fields and do their work. The sun would go down. There's no light bulb. And they might put on a candle, but pretty soon after the sun went down, they would go to bed, right? So one of the things that you can do a really simple thing is to start giving your body early morning sun exposure. So as soon as you can, after you wake up, it's a really good idea for your hormones and your sleep to go outside if you can and look, right? Look at the sky, look at the sun a little bit, notice the rays. Allow as much of your skin as you can to feel the light, to see the light. So if ladies, it's best if the weather's nice, wear a sports bra. Men, if you can, wear a tank top or go shirtless. That's what I like to do around the lake. I just try to get as much sun as I can. But that light from the sun, when your eyes and your skin perceive that sun in the morning, when it's supposed to be there, your body starts naturally producing that cortisol, right? We get in problems when we wake up, we stay inside, we have the shutters down, we drink coffee. Our body doesn't know the sun's up yet, right? We're not producing cortisol naturally. So native path, we're all about getting on the path. First thing you can do is wake up and go outside and expose as much of your body as you can to the sun. Now, I know some people live in northern climates, and sometimes that's like, it's really painful to go outside when it's super cold. The good news is that you're still going to get a benefit if you just go to the window and look outside, right? Just look at light, look at trees, ideally look at the sky, but just even have your morning coffee next to the window. But the more you can expose your eyes and your skin to natural sunlight, the better off you're going to be. Also, to help that cortisol production go down, it's a good idea to take sunset walks, right? So when you're outside, your body perceives the sun going down. It's a completely different type of ray coming from the sun. Your body knows this, right? When you perceive sunset light, your body will stop producing as much cortisol and you'll start producing more melatonin, right? And then it's important to be consistent with this, not just do it like one day, but what I'm suggesting is really make it part of your lifestyle, right? Consistently wake up and expose yourself to the sun, consistently take sunset walks, right? This here alone will radically help you with improving your sleep. Now, they did an interesting study in Colorado called it was a Colorado sleep study. They took a bunch of people who had horrible sleep issues, right? Horrible sleep issues. And all they did was took them camping for like 2 weeks. And I think it was in a matter of like 2 or 3 days. These are people who had those cortisol issues, poor production of melatonin, tossing and turning all night, complaints of sleep, did sleep studies, those type of people, right? They just had them go camping without screens, without phones, without TVs, without light that they could produce on their own, just the sunlight. And within 2 or 3 days, these people fixed this natural rhythm of cortisol and melatonin and started sleeping better, right? Really important to know the power and how quickly you can turn things around just by this one tip, okay? So next tip, and some people will not like me for saying this, like, but you really have to be careful with caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine and alcohol, really have to be careful with both of those. So caffeine, it increases cortisol, it can be helpful in the morning, but where we get in trouble is when we have too much and when we start having caffeine afternoon, right? Because remember, afternoon is when that cortisol production is supposed to go down, right? But when we're having coffee or really strong teas in the afternoon, that and just forcing artificially that cortisol to stay up, it's going to really negatively impact that cortisol coming down, and we won't be able to sleep very well. Throws off your rhythm. So my suggestion when it comes to caffeine, and I'm really talking about coffee here, is to limit it to one. I know that can be hard because some people have poor energy, but once you fix your sleep, you probably won't have the poor energy. So really try to limit your coffee intake or any drinks with caffeine just to one, and also try to never have caffeine afternoon, right? So just one and never afternoon. Another option would be decaf, but I personally love my coffee in the morning. I'm not giving that up. But I do fine with it if I just have one. And also, it's a good idea if you're someone who wakes up really early. Like I typically like to wake up at 5:30 and journal and do breathing exercises and things like that. But I try not to have my coffee. Another suggestion for you, try not to have your caffeine drink until the sun goes up, right? So if the sun's still down and you're drinking a coffee, it can be a little weird on that early cortisol production. So wait till the sun comes up before you have your first cup of coffee or tea. Alcohol, also, It can help you fall asleep. You can pass out by drinking alcohol, but it prevents you from having that really good restorative deep sleep that's so important for your body. So it prevents that deep sleep, but it also, and I talked about the core body temperature, alcohol raises your core body temperature. And this is why people get little hot flashes when they have too much to drink, right? So, remember, when you're sleeping, you want your core body temperature to be down, right? You don't want it to be high. It's going to prevent you from sleeping. It also turns off, alcohol turns off HGH, human growth hormone. So this is a hormone that helps you repair tendons and ligaments, any issues with your gut health. Your body does amazing things in terms of repairing itself, but we've got to give it a chance. We've got to give it the environment and the habits that are going to help do that, right? So just know that alcohol reduces HGH and your ability for your bodies to repair itself. So my suggestion on alcohol is to always have it at least 3 hours before bed. This allows you to process the alcohol and digest it, and you prevent that high body temperature, right? Also, when it comes to alcohol, it's really best if you keep it to wines or clear liquors. Those typically have less sugar. I talked in our nutrition seminar, talk a lot about that, but really try to prevent having really sugary drinks when you go to sleep, okay? Sleep tip number 3, eat an earlier dinner. An ideal time for us, Brent and I like to have dinner around like 6:30. And then what we'll do is go for an evening walk after that, which is really great for digestion. But just like alcohol, ideally, you want to have your dinner at least 3 hours before you go to bed. That's going to change from like year to year in terms of what time that is or time of the year. But what that does is it prevents the body temperature again from rising. So when you digest food, there's a lot of work for your body. Your body has to do a lot of things, and it gets hot, just like when you drink alcohol, to process that food. So the earlier you eat your dinner, ideally 3 hours before bed, the better off you're going to be. And I know there's a lot of people, I get a lot of comments of people who are dealing with acid reflux type issues that won't go away. This is another thing that can fix that. When you're eating dinner too close to your bed, and your body's going to have to really process that while you sleep, it can cause a lot of acid reflux. So tips here: eating 3 hours before bed, alcohol before bed. And these are core body temperature issues, right? Preventing you from having that big hot feeling in your body when you're going to bed. That stuff is not good. Okay. Number 4, create a cool, pitch black room. Sleep environment and sleep hygiene are super important. So I talked a lot about light, right? Light's good during the day. Natural sunlight is wonderful during the day. But in our modern culture, we got some really fancy screens, we got some really fancy TVs, we got iPads and iPhones, and it's got really bright light. And typically what a lot of people are doing is when the sun goes down, they're turning on that bright light. They're watching this huge, 50-inch TV with this big ball of bulb light coming right at their eyes. And it confuses your body. Your body starts to think the sun's still up. So when your body thinks the sun's still up, it's going to have a real hard time of turning down cortisol. It's going to have a real hard time of producing enough melatonin, right? So as far as the light for the TVs, once the sun goes down, one thing I like to do is wear those blue light glasses. So the blue light doesn't get into my eyes. My body doesn't think the sun goes up. But the actual place where you sleep, your bedroom, it's a good idea to black out the curtains, right? Try not to have any light perceivable in any way. You almost want there to be no difference between when you close your eyes and when you open your eyes. You can't tell if you're in your pitch black room or you got your eyes closed, right? But black out the curtains. And even your fire alarm. People are like, even the fire alarm, that little red light or blue light or whatever. Yes, that little thing is super bright, and a little pigment of your skin, a little pigment of your eye can pick up on that, and it can confuse your body. So I'm a big fan of putting tape on fire alarms. Also a big fan of using battery alarm clocks. So a lot of alarm clocks that people have by their side, there's light coming. You can see the time all the time, right? We have a battery alarm clock, Bryn and I do, where we only see the time if we go over there and touch it, right? So when we're sleeping, there's really no need to look at that time. But if you're sleeping with an alarm clock that when you're asleep, it's still like giving light off, like remove that, cover it in some way, or get a battery alarm clock. so that light isn't coming in there, right? Another good tip is to cool the room. And some people are super picky about temperature, but there's a lot of science behind it that your body actually does a lot better in a cooler room, right? So I mentioned the core body temperature, the lower you can get that, I mean, not always lower, like 30 degrees, but around 66 degrees in the room is what science shows is the most effective temperature for you to sleep and get your body in that cooler state, right? So if you're sleeping and it's like 80 degrees, your body might have a hard time actually getting in that restful sleep. And again, avoid the bright screens before bed. If you're someone who's like, reading this big iPad before bed and having problems with sleep, like that alone right there might fix a lot of issues. And also, other sleep hygiene things, sleep masks are really great. Having a quiet room is really great. I'm a big fan of doing a little journaling before bed, and that helps me get rid of like a lot of thoughts. If I'm thinking about what I'm going to do the next day, just write it down. That way you kind of do a brain dump and you get all that out there. So you're not wired and thinking about all these things all the time, but really just generally have a sleep routine. The more consistent you are with what you do as the sun goes down, the more your body is going to go, oh, I know what to do. I'm going to start producing melatonin. I'm going to stop producing cortisol. Time to go to bed, right? Really good thing to do there. Then we got some questions. Let's see what we can do here. So we got, Barbara, are there any heavy metals, additives, preservatives, fillers of any kind in your collagen? And no, we have the most pure form of collagen. So yeah, there's nothing in there but pure grass-fed collagen. Barb also, another Barb says, thyroid issues. So even when I get a good night's sleep, I feel exhausted. Solutions, ideas for this concern. Barb, what we're talking about, these sleep tips I'm talking about, I think they're the most helpful ones to get you going. And then Teresa says, I have panic attack with the pitch black room. Advice? Well, I would say light a candle and work with it that way, and try to wean yourself off from light as best you can. But really the bright light is, and the artificial light is the one that's most problematic. So I would say light a candle first. All right, sleep tip number 5. And yes, there's helpful supplementation you can do. And I want to introduce everybody to our Collagen PM. We have a lot of great products here at Native Path. Collagen PM is specifically designed to help you sleep. And, but also just like, nutrition, you can't exercise or supplement your way out of a bad diet. You can't supplement your way into good sleep unless you pay attention to those other tips that I was talking about. But Collagen PM is our natural bedtime elixir, and it is so much better than those over-the-counter sleep aids, so much better than Ambien. I don't know if anybody's ever taken Ambien. I have. Back in the day, a doctor prescribed it to me, and I woke up and I was like zombie walking in the middle of the night. So over-the-counter stuff, prescription stuff, it's not the best. It prevents you from getting that deep restorative sleep that you need. But with Collagen PM, you're going to fall asleep fast. You do get that deep restorative sleep, and you wake up feeling energized. You don't have that groggy type feeling that a lot of people have when they take a lot of that over-the-counter stuff. So I want to share with you really the 5 ingredients that we put in here, and we did a lot of research. We have a whole team here at Native Path. We meet once a week. We talk about what products we want. We test things. Everything is inspected by a third party, some of the purest ingredients. So I'm going to show you what's in here to help you get back in harmony with sleep. So ingredient number 1 is GABA. This is the main inhibitory transmitter in the brain, meaning it suppresses stimulation. This is a really good ingredient for those people who they're wired, they can't stop thinking before they go to bed, right? It's a powerful stress reducing and sleep enhancing formula, and that it positively supports millions of people, right? But when GABA levels are low, you're going to see stress, anxiety, and sleep disturbances like insomnia arise. So supplementing with GABA is really helpful, and that's why we put it in the Collagen PM formula. Second ingredient, one of my favorites, I love L-theanine. So L-theanine is an amino acid that really has a lot of relaxation benefits, but without that drowsiness type feeling. And L-theanine has also been heavily studied as it relates to sleep. So, consuming L-theanine before bed is going to support that higher quality sleep, but not by sedation. It's going to do it by reducing any type of anxiety that you might be feeling. Ingredient number 3, another one of my favorites, is magnesium. And magnesium is one of those things that most people in our modern culture are extremely deficient in. Like 50% of Americans don't get enough. And the reason why we're so deficient in magnesium is because of the radical changes that have been happening in the food industry and the farming industry. So our soil, it used to have a lot of magnesium, right? It was that's how our ancestors were getting when they plant foods in natural good soil, free of any herbicides and pesticides and all that stuff and GMOs. The food would have magnesium from the soil. But in our modern culture, because of monoagriculture, they will take acres of land and just kill off everything but corn, right? And we produce all these artificial foods. We're not getting enough magnesium. So that magnesium, I like to say magnesium is like a primer on your wall. Like you paint your wall, you put on a primer first, and then you can paint it. Magnesium, because it helps the color, the natural paint that you want stay there. Magnesium is the same way for, it's like a primer for your body. You bring in enough magnesium, you start absorbing all the vitamins and minerals much better. But it's also been heavily studied when it relates to sleep. So you see here, it did a double-blind study on 46 elderly individuals. And what they found, a significant increase in sleep time, sleep efficiency, and melatonin production with taking magnesium. Also a significant decrease in ISI scores, that's a sleep score, standard thing, and cortisol. It's coming back to cortisol, right? Magnesium helps decrease that production of cortisol so you can sleep a lot better. It's like your body's built-in alarm system, and it decreases the amount of time it typically takes for people to fall asleep. Ingredient number 4, melatonin. And when it comes to melatonin supplementation, really you want to do just enough melatonin, right? So melatonin, again, is dubbed the sleep hormone. And I mentioned it's right there with cortisol. It's your nighttime hormone, but many people have a really hard time producing melatonin because they've had such bad sleep habits for so long, right? So supplementing with just the right amount of melatonin can help many people in a huge way. So this is dubbed the sleep hormone again, and for a sleep-inducing molecule that your body naturally produces on its own, right? They've also heavily studied melatonin. So they did 19 different studies, over 1,600 individuals, and melatonin was examined as a treatment for sleep disorders, and significant outcomes included a significant reduction in the time it takes to fall asleep, and an increase in sleep time and an improvement in overall sleep quality, right? So melatonin can be super helpful in the right dose. Number 5, of course, is collagen. So we know many people here at Native Path in our community are taking collagen. Good, keep taking collagen. And we also encourage people to, especially people who are trying to overcome joint issues or improve bone density, is not just take 10 grams a day, which is what's on the bottle, but try to take 20, maybe 30, sometimes in severe cases, maybe 40 grams of collagen a day. And it's best to spread that out. So if you're someone who's taking collagen in the morning, you're taking 10 grams in your morning coffee, your morning tea, or smoothie, and you want to get more collagen, it's good for you to spread that out throughout the day rather than have 40 grams of collagen in your breakfast or your morning breakfast. Spread it out, and this, we wanted to put collagen in here because collagen actually has an amino acid called glycine. It's the most abundant amino acid in collagen, but it can really help sleep. It's an inhibitory transmitter, meaning it doesn't stimulate the brain. It also helps calm the central nervous system, helping you feel relaxed and fall asleep faster and easier. So one serving of our collagen PM formula has 10 grams of grass-fed collagen. It's the same collagen that you'll see in our normal collagen. That's just pure collagen, all from grass-fed cows, all free of herbicides and pesticides. It's type 1 and type 3, same exact collagen. So it's what we feel is the most beneficial, highly absorbable form of collagen for your body, right? So it's the 5 ingredients, and we have two flavors in stock right now. So we have lemon and chocolate, and I like both of these for different times, and they're kind of seasonal for me. I like lemon in the summer when it's a little hot out. It just feels like it's not as fulfilling, right? It's a really refreshing flavor. And I like chocolate when it gets cold. You can do hot chocolates, or you can do like a chocolate shake. I typically like to have these about once the sun is starting to go down, right? Once I've done that evening walk and come back, about 90 minutes before bed is an ideal time to have this, right? Not too close to bed because you don't want to wake up and go to the restroom all night. But these two flavors are absolutely delicious. I highly recommend you try it. We have a lot of customers who have already tried these formulas and their sleep has improved dramatically. Some people tend to take these every night and do great. I kind of take it as needed. So once you're taking care of all those sleep tips, you're waking up with the sun, you're doing sunset walks, you're blacking out your room and having the environment set up. I typically take it as needed. I always travel with it, especially if I'm changing time zones. It really helps reset that circadian rhythm. So two great formulas. And what we're going to do here, I'm going to put in the chat, is a special link where you can get a major discount on both of these flavors, collagen PM and lemon and chocolate. But this is only available for those who are watching this webinar or the recording of this webinar, either here on Zoom or on Facebook Live. So basically choose the flavor that you want, anyone you want to try, select as many jars, see how many jars you want. I recommend our 6-jar package. Really has the best value with 30% off. And again, we don't offer this amazing deal to anyone, anywhere. It's just for people watching this webinar. So I'm going to open up to some questions now. And again, I put that in the chat, the link for the exclusive webinar offer in the chat. And Rachel is going to put that link in the Facebook post. So I'm going to open up to some questions now. And Rachel actually sourced a few questions for me earlier, and I'll get to the other questions that you guys have after these questions. So I don't know if it's the same Barb, but Barb asked, what does a good night's sleep, why does a good night's sleep become more difficult as we age? And really this has to do with the changes in production of the hormones, right? Melatonin and cortisol typically play a big issue with disrupted sleep in older adults. So as people age, the body secretes less melatonin, which is normally produced in response to darkness that helps promote sleep by coordinating circadian rhythms. That's what we're talking about there. So that's really the issue is people are having habits and routines that are preventing that cortisol, that hormonal stimulation. So we naturally produce less melatonin as we age, and you can fix that, right? Another question from Virginia is, can seniors get by with less sleep? That's a good question. That's a really good question. And contrary to popular opinion, no. Seniors need just as much sleep, if not more, to repair a lot of the issues that have been done with cortisol and hormones and bad habits, right? You need just as much. A good example of this is my dad. My dad was a police officer for 40 years. And he got like 5 hours of sleep every night. He would go to bed at 11 and wake up at 4, and he would drink coffee all day. He drank some alcohol before he went to bed. He had 5 hours of sleep a night. As soon as he retired and just removed that, and I've been helping my dad get his sleep back in the rhythm and back in harmony. He's been sleeping 8 hours, 9 hours a night and feeling so much better than when he was actually working and getting 5 hours of sleep. So it was really beneficial. And to know that, no, it's not just for, you can't get by with less sleep. You still need at least 8 hours of sleep to really see the benefits and feel amazing. Regina asked, when you drink water often to the tune of 9 to 12 cups daily, so first off, good job, Regina, how do you not wake up several times at night to use the bathroom and then hope for great sleep? Thanks so much. So that's a really good question too. And for those who have also seen my nutrition webinar, I recommend half your body weight in ounces of water. It's a good thing to have water first thing in the morning when you wake up. It's a good idea to not chase down your food with water. But really what I suggest doing is having the bulk of that water, maybe 60 to 70% in the AM. And what I do is after 6 p.m., I don't have any water. I just have some collagen PM if I'm taking that as the sun's going down. But that helps me not wake up, 3 to 4 times a night to go to use the restroom. I know that's a problem for a lot of people. So just like eating earlier, I suggest you cut off water around like 6, maybe 7 p.m. Kind of play with that. It's going to be different for everybody, depending on where they are and when they're going to be going to sleep. But try to front end your water as best you can. So we got a lot of questions here. Let me see what we got. So can you include the link again? Okay, everybody should have the link. If you don't, please let us know, and we'll go ahead and get that for you. Let's see, what causes leg cramps sometimes at night? This is from Virginia. That's another great question. Typically, it's low magnesium, or it's just low salt, like not enough salt. And in our culture, we've been saying that salt is the enemy, but that typically means low potassium, low sodium, low magnesium is what's causing a lot of those. So magnesium is in collagen PM and can help that. So let's see what we got here. How to wean off self-medication such as Ambien. So that's a great question, Barbara. And when it comes to medications, always talk to your doctor. Let your doctor know about the intention that you have to get off Ambien. And what I would do is keep taking the Ambien, as work with your doctor on this, but do all those other things I was talking about, right? Like morning sun exposure, evening sunset walks, blackout room, fix the coffee issue, fix the alcohol issue, fix the eating late issue, if that's an issue, and then try to work with your doctor. Your doctor may suggest, hey, just cut it in half. Maybe you can cut it in a quarter. And then while you're doing that, especially when you get almost off of it, start taking collagen PM. That's a really good way to kind of wean yourself off. That may be a 3 to 4 week process, but the habits, the lifestyle really have to be lined up. Okay. Karen, tip number one is align yourself with the sun. Wake up and get outside. So how much water you drink before going to bed? Virginia asked that. None. Try not to have any water before bed. Try to front end on the water. Talked a lot about that. So Elaine says, I have a connective tissue disorder from a mixed diagnosis 18 years ago. The pain in my legs is terrible at night. And because of that, I never get more than 2 hours of sleep at night. My skin, hair, weight is really showing the lack of sleep. Yes, not enough sleep. And I'm sorry you're having pain in your leg. It's so what if you're still having, if the issue is pain and you're still having pain, what I would recommend is go see a physical therapist, a really good doctor of physical therapy, and see if you can get that connective tissue disorder fixed, because pain can be huge for preventing you from sleeping. Another good thing would be for pain management. Our turmeric is really great for that. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. Another great product would be CBD. We don't carry CBD, but if you're in a state that has CBD, that would be another thing to work with. But definitely go see a physical therapist who can show you who can diagnose you, who can look at you and see how you're moving and what's going on, and get that fixed, because it can definitely be fixed. And next question from Barb. What if you have a small light on so as not to trip? And that's a good, I know a lot of seniors have that issue, right? And want to keep a little bit of light on, so they can feel safe if they do wake up in the middle of the night. And I would say if you have to do that, do it. I know there's some lights that are movement sensitive, which might be better. So in other words, it turns off when you go to bed and you're not moving, but if you get up to go to the restroom, it'll turn on for you. So I know there's those lights available. You might want to check Amazon. You probably get it sent to you tomorrow, but that's one way to work around that. Let's see, what happens when you work nights and sleep during the day? So Vicki, very good question. And there's really, I feel so bad for shift workers and nurses and people who are staying up all night and then try to sleep during the day, and it can really mess up your metabolism. So my best suggestion there is to really make sure that you are doing as best you can to still expose your body to sunlight in the morning and sunlight in the evening if you can, but really make sure that if you're sleeping during the day, everything is blacked out as much as possible, right? Really important, but that's a tough issue to overcome, unfortunately, and it's something we just have in our culture. So Paula says, I have a hard time falling asleep and only average 6 hours a night. Yeah, you're like most Americans. So hopefully some of these tips will help you. And I highly suggest you try them, and also try the collagen PM. There's a lot of people who say they have 6 hours of sleep a night and they have a hard time falling asleep. They try collagen PM just one time. They're like, where is this meant? and they fall asleep fast and they stay asleep. Remember that restorative sleep with all those really helpful ingredients, but wake up feeling good. And you really just have, again, take it, do these sleep tips, and after a while, everything resets. The cortisol, the melatonin resets, and it doesn't take very long. Remember the Colorado sleep study. So you can fix a lot of this very quickly. So let's see, we got more questions here. Um, let's see. Nancy says, how many hours should we sleep? If not, how many hours is napping a good idea? So ideally it's 7 to 10 hours, but I tend to move people more towards that 8 to 9. If people want better results, I typically find 8 to 9 hours is what gets people waking up and feeling energized. Is napping a good idea? Yes, I love napping. I love taking an afternoon nap. Just even if I don't fall asleep, just laying down and taking a break, breathing through my belly, and relaxing my nervous system is a great thing to do. How much GABA passes the brain barrier? That's a good question, Teresa. I'm not exactly sure, and I don't recall any studies on that. I just know the GABA is very effective for helping prevent super high stimulation and getting you a relaxed state, but I don't know the exact way that they would check that. What kind of magnesium? There are several kinds. Magnesium citrate, I believe, is what we have in it. Let me see. Magnesium. Yeah. Actually, it's magnesium glycinate. And citrate is another thing we're looking at with just magnesium. So this one has magnesium glycinate, glycinate, and super helpful for helping you sleep. I take collagen every morning in coffee. Can I take collagen PM at night along with it? Yes, you can. Just like I mentioned, ideally you want at least 20 grams a day for collagen. A good way to do that, spread it throughout the day, have it in the morning, have it in the evening. Does collagen PM knock me out to where I will not wake up if I need to? No, it's not like what you would get with alcohol or especially Ambien, or over-the-counter sleep things. It's kind of like just enough. We're not overdosing you in any way, so it's just the right amount. And if I will say also, if you do find it's too strong where it does knock you out, what we recommend, just take half. Just take half of the scoop, or whatever dose you feel is the perfect level for you. So that's another thing that we're always saying, like, just when it comes to supplementation, just as needed. And that's a way you can work around that. Is chocolate caffeine free? This one we do not have that, because a lot of people have the natural cacao, coffee, or chocolate. That can be very stimulating. This is not the type of chocolate that's going to wake you up and keep you going. Elaine says, I'm 62 and I have a connected, I think I already answered that one. Yeah. So the pain in my legs is horrible at night. Yeah, definitely go see a physical therapist. Okay, and Rosario says, I already do 2 scoops of collagen a day. Is that too much? So I would say if you're doing 20 and you're still having any issues, we typically see people have no problems with 30 grams a day or 40 grams a day. We actually haven't seen, it's hard to overdose on collagen. So yeah, you'll do great with 3 scoops. So you'd have 2 in the morning and then 1 scoop in the evening. That's 30 grams. That's a really good level you want to be at. Is collagen PM good for diabetics? Yes, if it doesn't have any sugar, right? So it's also has a protein. Remember, protein and fat is going to be very helpful for controlling blood sugar. Also, Nancy, with diabetics, I don't think anybody who wants to improve their health and really get their nutrition in order, do our native body reset. We show you what foods to eat, what foods not to eat. That can help you out in a major way. So it can help you there. But really, the bulk of your diet, think good quality proteins, good fats, veggies. You can fix a lot of those issues if you're type 2. Barbara says, I take L-theanine, magnesium. Can I take sleep collagen? Yes, you can take those. And actually, most people can take even more magnesium than is in here. This is why we're also coming out with a magnesium formula, because as I said, so many people are deficient in it and it can be so helpful. So we're putting some magnesium in here to help you, but you can definitely take more magnesium, anywhere from 200 to 400 milligrams a day, which is really helpful. So Jane says, thank you for all the information. You're welcome, Jane. And I have been on your collagen and plus for a long time. I take 20 to 30 grams per day. I'm bone on bone in the right hip and mild to severe on the left. Not any change to indicate cartilage regenerating so far. I also had stem cell injections April 12th. I was told 3 to 6 months. There are different types of collagen. You mentioned this helps with joints. How do I know if what I'm doing is helpful, or how can I know to do more? I also take supplements where I had the stem cell procedure, and I also take your turmeric, probiotic, collagen plus, and collagen. Just order the collagen PM. Any suggestions? So awesome, Jane. Really taking a lot of really good stuff. So when it comes to the hip, and I know a lot of people in here have hip issues and knee issues. if you're doing all the right things in terms of supplementation, you're taking the turmeric and the collagen, and that's really good. If you haven't already, I suggest you do some movements, some stretches, and some strengthening exercises on your hip. And what I suggest you do is you go to nativepath.com and you'll see a search bar. Just type in hip at the top, and you'll see a whole bunch of videos come up that I've already done that show you a whole bunch of things you can do to your hip, even if you're bone on bone, right? And as I'm saying this, really, if you have problems in your shoulder or your neck or your back or your knee, just go to that search bar at nativepath.com and type in your problem area. You'll see a whole bunch of exercises that come up with videos of me actually just walking you through these exercises. It can be incredibly helpful to fix a lot of those issues, right? Because just like, in our culture, we sit all the time. It puts our hips out of a bad place. You can strengthen your glutes, you can stretch your hamstrings, you can stretch your IT band. That can help in a major way. So let's see, we got a few more questions here from Nancy. My doc recommended reclass for osteopenia, infused for 1 year. I've been taking 20 milligrams of collagen over a year. Doc said it goes right through the body. Can I continue 20 milligrams along with reclass infusion? Yes, you can definitely keep taking collagen with reclass infusion. Collagen is really just a whole food, right? Our ancestors got plenty of it. So you can take it with, I don't think there's any medications that are contraindications to actual collagen. It's a natural food that we should be getting many of. As far as your doctor saying it just goes right through the body. It's a good example of a doctor who hasn't done his homework nor tried any new things. We get incredible amounts of testimonials from our customers who take collagen 20 to 40 grams a day, who are dealing with these same issues and get amazing results. It's not placebo. It's truly collagen knows what to do. It goes to the problem areas of your body. It fixes and repairs that specific issue. So I think we're coming to the end here. We got a few more questions. Hi, did you read my question in the chat about drinking water 30 minutes after you eat? So you're not drink the glass of water before bed and are waking up in the middle of the night. I didn't see that, Terry, but thank you for that question and following up with me. So yeah, 30 minutes after you eat is a good idea. Terry may have seen some of my nutrition webinars where I don't suggest you chase your water down with food. Try to just chew your food, let your body's natural enzymes and acids start producing. I do believe, wait 30 minutes after you eat is a really good idea. But again, try not to have it before bed. Try to have water. I start cutting off at 6 p.m. Otherwise, I will wake up all night. Try to front end your water in the a.m. Try to have maybe a few glasses in the p.m. Half your body weight in ounces of water a day. Chad, do you believe cartilage can regenerate? It can. I do believe that taking collagen can help that. I also believe, and I know that, we've seen that. But also I do believe that when it comes to cartilage, what's really important is that you move it, right? So again, I can show a lot of people great exercises and stretches that they can do at nativepath.com. Just go to that. I'm kind of biased because I'm a physical therapist and I love movement, but I promise you movement, smart supplementation, good diet can fix a lot of your issues. So, okay, everybody, I think that's it. Hope you all enjoyed that. If if we did get any more questions, you can always email us at cs@nativepath.com or support@nativepath.com. Both of those will work. And let me see here. I'm going to put those information in there, and we will always get to your questions later on. So we have a great customer experience team. If after the fact you want to reach out to them, and typically if they don't know the answers to the questions, they send the questions to me and I'll answer them for you. So thank you all for coming to this webinar. Thank you for being a part of the Native Path community. Hope you're all eating well and moving well and living well. And we're really liking these webinars. So if you're liking them too, we plan on doing them every 2 weeks. So we love your feedback. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you all so much. You're so welcome, Jane. And you're so welcome, Nancy. And hope you all doing well and have a good day. Okay, bye everybody. Yoo-hoo.